Let us today discuss about one of the most famous, most loved and most wanted, I would say, indoor plant, and that is Monstera deliciosa. The most common reason that why people go for this plant is obviously the big, huge, gigantic leaves, I would say, and the beautiful texture on the leaves, the design that you see, these perforated leaves. That's the reason why people prefer this plant. Now there is a logic behind why these leaves have these perforations on them, these holes on them. This plant is a tropical plant, a rainforest plant, I would say. So their tendency is to grow on the branches of the trees. They will always take the support of huge trees and they will grow on them, and that is the reason they always get that filtered light, filtered air, and also the water that they get is from the rainwater that comes on those big trees. And these holes on the Monstera leaves will help the water to actually go below that leaf easily, and that's why it is very important for us to understand that where these plants originate from, and based on that I have kept this plant in a place where it will not receive direct sunlight. Now as you can see, there is a leaf that is receiving direct sun for some time. I am going to put a shade over here so it will not receive direct sunlight, but yes, it still needs light, because when these Monstera plants are on the branches of the trees, they actually climb in the upward direction towards the light. That's why they do love light but not direct sunlight. If your plant has any yellow leaves, high chances that your plant is getting a lot of heat or maybe direct sun, and that's why it is getting those yellow leaves. If it is getting brown leaves, then there might be a problem of lack of humidity, and the leaves have, if the leaves have started going crispy, and that means the plant is not getting that proper humidity. Now if you have a look over here, what I have done is I have kept ferns underneath the Monstera, because obviously ferns, they have the same tendency. They love growing under huge trees and they do not like that direct sun. When you keep so many plants together, it naturally creates that humidity. For example, if I give you the example of this fern, it is like literally on the pot of Monstera. So it might have a few brown leaves, which is fine, but if you look at the overall health of my fern, which is outside, not even inside the house, it is doing magic. And it is not raining at all over here right now. It is not monsoon, still the fern is green. So it is always good to understand the requirement of your plant. Have a look here, the new leaf coming up here for Monstera. One is coming here, then there are few coming down there. If you see, there is one coming here, this one. So many leaves in one plant, and obviously you have many of them. Now if I tell you something, this plant is approximately 1 year old, and when I bought this plant, it was a very small baby plant. If you have seen my video on how to take care of snake plant, over there in the background I could see that this plant is there. Just compare the time duration and you will see what was the size of the plant back then and what is it today. Purely because it is kept outside, it is getting a lot of light, and I have made sure that it is only getting that much light that it needs. If you have kept it inside the house, because obviously it's an indoor plant, you have to make sure it is at least getting some light to maintain its green color for the process of photosynthesis. Just because it is an indoor plant, please don't keep it in a dark spot. Otherwise what happens is, number one, you will not see big leaves. The leaves will be very small, and we don't buy Monstera because we need small baby leaves. We buy them so that we can have these huge leaves. Have a look, this new leaf. Look at the texture, the shine of the new leaf, the design. Also, one thing I would recommend for Monstera plant is to give it a moss pole like this, or a coco coir pole, whatever you call it. You should give one so that the plant has a support, because again, how does the plant grows? With the support of the branches of a tree. That's why giving support is a good idea. And in forest or wherever it grows, it takes the nutrients from the branches, as we discussed. So you have to make sure that you are giving this plant fertilizer. What I do is I make sure that the soil has a lot of organic compost along with the normal potting mix. Obviously my soil has to be very well drained soil. When I put in water, it has to come out easily. If it's locked in, again root rotting will occur. Very common points: the pot needs to have holes, the soil has to be well drained, it should not be a very clay soil. And if you have seen my other videos, I always show what is the best soil that you should make. The same applies for Monstera. But again, in spring, when it's a little warmer, or even in summers, fertilize your plant once in a month using seaweed fertilizer. You can watch my video on how I fertilize my indoor plants. That's how I fertilize my Monstera, just once in a month. There is no need to fertilize it more than that. Now, with a lot of tropical plants, when we know that they love humidity, we make a mistake, and that is overwatering. We feel the plant loves a lot of humidity, let's water it every now and then. That should not be the case. Watering the plant and maintaining the correct humidity, there is a lot of difference. Whenever I water my plant, I'll always put finger like this, deep, at least 1-2 inch, and I'll check. Now, if the soil sticks like this and I can feel it's wet, I'm not going to water my plant. I cannot water it. If I do that watering, the roots will rot. If I don't want to water my plant and just want to maintain the humidity, this is what I normally do. So I have not watered my plant, but I have given it that proper mist, which will help my plant to stay humid, and there is not much water that's gone inside the soil, but the leaves and branches have got some water. This will help not only my Monstera but my ferns and this place to be humid for a long time, and my plants won't go crispy. Now obviously this plant is outside, so I could do this pipe thing and just put some water on this, but if it is inside the house, you can't do this because your house will be dirty then. So what you can do is, if you have a Monstera plant, have a tray underneath the pot and put some water on in that plate with pebbles on it, and put the pot on the pebbles. So you have to make sure that your bottom part of the pot is not touching the water, it's touching the stones. That way the water constantly evaporates, the plant gets that humidity, or humidifier is a good option as well. Coming towards pruning and grooming this plant, I would definitely prune here and there once in a year. More than that is not required because it will not grow that much. But in my case, it has done magic in 1 year, and I'm very proud of my Monstera. So I am going to prune it in few months. When the summer is over, I will prune it so that when next summer kicks in, there is a lot of new growth and new shoots. So always prune it just before it starts getting warmer, so that when it starts getting warmer, the plant gets that new growth because of that pruning that you have done. Now in case of Monstera, I would not repot this plant very often. When you plant your Monstera, make sure you plant it in a decent size pot, not very small one, and do not touch it for at least 2 to 3 years. I have already completed a little more than 1 year maybe, and I haven't repotted it yet. So it is in the same pot. I might repot it in another year or so, but definitely not before that. So please do not repot every now and then, because that will disturb the root setting of the plants, and your plants, the growth of the plant might get restricted because of that disturbance in their root system. Now, one more thing that I would like to recommend is try to keep the leaves of Monstera plants clean, because these plants might get pest attacks, like a very common one is mealybugs attack. So especially if you have kept it inside the house, you can use a wet cloth and just wipe the leaves every often to keep the plant clean. When the leaves are clean, it's very easy for the leaves to absorb the air from the atmosphere and to carry on the process of photosynthesis to make the food. So if the leaves are clean, the job of plant becomes easy, and that's what I would recommend. If it is outside, it's even easier. You can just use a pipe or something like that. Just clean it every now and then. Make sure the leaves and branches are clean so that there is no pest attack. If there is a pest attack on your Monstera, what I have done once is I took a big wet cloth and I made a hand sanitizer solution, and I dipped the cloth in it, and then I literally wiped every single leaf, branches with that hand sanitizer solution. You can also use soap spray and just spray it everywhere, and do it at least for 5-6 times every alternate days. if you see there is a pest attack. Don't just do it once and leave it, because that pest might come back again. Do it for few times, and once you see that now there is no pest attack, that's when you can stop. I hope you did enjoy watching how to care for your Monstera plant. Do bring them if you don't have them, and if you have them, do take care of them properly so that they grow wild. See you. Bye for now.